Hey friends, welcome back to Simply Home and Harvest. I'm Jen, and here on this channel you will see a little bit of everything from the home. However, I love to decorate, and so I know that's something that you all love as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about decorating, and I'm going to give you some of my tips for decorating and some things that I've just kind of picked up over the years. I'm not an expert by any means, but it is something that I love to do. And I'm sure that all of you have lots of tips as well. So if you'd like, you can leave yours in the comments below. I'd love to read through them and just see how you decorate your home. So today I've got 7 that I want to share with you. Okay, in no particular order. Number 1, I love using like vignettes of color. What I mean by that is sometimes we might go overboard with a theme. Maybe we really like, I'll tell you what, I'll use a personal example. When we first moved into our home, I really loved the farmhouse even way back then, 25 years ago. I loved cows. And I, told my friends and family, I guess, about that. Well, before you know it, I had cows in the kitchen, I had cows in the den, I had cows in the bathroom. It was just cows everywhere. And though I loved it, it was kind of taking over the space. And so over the years, I kind of didn't really like that too much anymore, but I still like little touches. So I could incorporate like cows in just like a little area of decorating. Or if I really like blue and yellow together, I could just do those colors in one area and create a vignette of color, but not feel like I have to decorate the whole space in that color or that particular theme. I'm gonna show you some examples so you'll know what I'm talking about there. But that is something that I really incorporated and paid attention to this spring while I was doing our spring decor, was especially with the pattern, especially with that blue floral pattern. I had some pastels and some Easter eggs that I wanted to decorate with, but I also wanted to use the blue floral. So there were areas where I could work in both, but there were areas where I just concentrated on the blue floral, and then the other area I just concentrated on those pastels. So don't be afraid to blend colors together that way. You don't have to make everything monochromatic unless that's just what you like. I tried to do the whole monochromatic, black and white, neutrals, for a while. And though I still enjoy that look, and I know many of you really like that, I just am a girl who needs some color. So I love adding in little pops of color and bringing textures and patterns and things like that just to brighten the home. So vignettes of color might help you in that area. Now, my number two tip is it's just something about odd numbers that I really like when it comes to decorating. I like to decorate in at least groups of 3. Sometimes you can do groups of 5. I like to keep it where there's a little bit of a dimension there. And I think the odd numbers do well with that. So groups of 3, I'm going to show you some examples there again. And you could add in, it doesn't have to be, 3 different pieces, but what I do normally like to do in a space is I like to have something that provides light. I like to have something that provides color and texture. And then sometimes I like to have something that has like words on it, or a print of some sort. So you can kind of be creative and play around with that and do what you like. But groups of 3, it's just, to me, it's more pleasing to the eye. It really brings the space out. It gives some dimension. So that's just something I've always gravitated toward, and it's worked for me. Now, number 3 is vertical interest. I cannot stress this one enough. Sometimes we end up with cluttered decor. Does that make sense? I don't know if you've ever been in an area or a store, but it's hard for your eye to settle on something because although it's pretty and that person put a lot of time and effort into decorating the space, it's hard for you really to appreciate it or your eye to really follow it or it to be pleasing to your eye because it's just kind of like all spread out and cluttered. But if you use your vertical space, if you use shelving, if you use a ladder, if you use a table, if you use things that elevate, chairs, stools, just anything that adds a dimension to your decor and gives vertical interest, that will draw the eye up. It also gives you more space to decorate. So if you're like me, add a shelf and you can have more decor. But pictures on the wall, which I'm not somebody great at, things like that. Use your space. You can find it all around and move things around. It's like those kids that when you let your kids decorate the Christmas tree and they put all of their ornaments in one little spot when they have the whole tree to decorate with. So don't let that be you. Spread things out and use that vertical space. Number 4 is to research your style. Now, you don't have to be one particular style. I love farmhouse decor. I also like that primitive look. I also very much like cottage. I like some Victorian. I like some modern. So I'm a little bit of everything. So sometimes it's hard for me to express to somebody what my decorating style is. I guess that could be called eclectic. I don't know. But I do tend to gravitate towards certain styles at different points in my life. Right now, I'm really loving more of the cottage and that blue floral pattern and the textures and patterns. Someone referenced Nancy Meyer. I don't know if you know what that is. If you look up the Nancy Meyer style of decorating, that's probably a box that I would fit into right now. But I also love that primitive style with the old colonial and just that country, the patterns, the quilts, that kind of thing. And then I appreciate the modern, some of the modern. And some of that classical style, but I always find myself kind of going back to my roots, which is more of that farmhouse, primitive, colonial style. That probably has a word. My daughter would say that's called grandma core. Have y'all heard that? Y'all gonna have to look up these terms. Nancy Meyer, grandma core. That's a thing now. So I guess that's who I am. But research your style. See what it is that you like. You can do this by looking through magazines. I know that that's kind of a thing of the past, and I really miss magazines. I used to love to just sit down and flip through a magazine, and I still am the kind of person that I would prefer print rather than scrolling on my phone. But you can't get print, as easily anymore. A lot of companies have discontinued magazines. So, if you can find magazines, do it that way. In fact, old magazines, because these styles are coming back around. And plus, if it's something you like, who cares if it's gone out of style? If you like it, you should do it. That's coming up next. But, you could research magazines, old books. You can use Pinterest. If you are somebody that really likes the online space, you could use Pinterest. You could use YouTube, right here. And just type that style in, and the sky's the limit. You'll find so many decorating videos and ways to help you, give you inspiration for your own home. So there's a lot of inspiration out there. Even just going to Hobby Lobby can inspire you. Just see, you don't have to buy things. You can just see what they have out there, and then that might spark your interest to go home and shop your home and use what you have. So number 5 is to do what you like. Do what makes you happy. You do not have to follow the trends, even if something is popular. I got into that black and white buffalo check pattern. Everything in this house just about was black and white buffalo check. I still love it. You will still see it in our home. But, it had its day, and now it's kind of fading out. But I will never be completely without it because it's something that I really like. But a lot of people will just follow the trends. They would do that black and white buffalo check, and then the next year they're ready to throw that out. If y'all hear a mower in the background, we've got some neighbors doing some yard work. There are also financial advantages to not following the trends and doing what you love, because it can get expensive if every season you are changing things up and having to spend more money. So when you do what you like, you're pretty much committing to something that is going to stand the test of time, because if it's something you like, your tastes are going to change over time. You might not like something as much as you did the year before, because that does happen to me. And y'all witness that, I'm sure, on occasion. So try not to be too influenced. Do what you love, what your family loves, what works for you all. Remember, you still have to live in that space, so you've got to make it functional for you and your family. And you want it to bring you happiness. I remember that, I think I've told this story before, but when we moved into our home many years ago, our den was just, the whole house was just like an off-white color. And I loved color. And this was before everybody was doing the resale gray on their walls and brightening up their spaces, which I do love that too. But I decided that I wanted to paint our den red. And I don't know if you remember, this was back when Trading Spaces was really popular show on TLC, I think. And they were just, you know, they would paint every wall, just all kinds of different colors. And that deep red was just a popular color back then. Anyway, everybody talked me out of it. Nobody thought that was a good idea, but I was just adamant that I wanted to paint that room red. And when I did, I think I won over just about all of my friends and family with that color. They loved it, but it really did like warm up the space. But when we redid our den, we decided to brighten it up a little bit, and we went with this color that you see on this wall behind me. I do miss that red from time to time, but I'm able to add in, you know, pops of color to incorporate into the room to warm it up. So there you go. Do what you love. It will pay off for you in the end. And especially like just paint or decoration. I mean, if you don't like it, you can always change it, right? All right, well, I lost count a bit, but I think this is number 6. So the number 6 tip that I have for you is to shop consignment and thrift stores or thrift sales. If you watch my latest video, you'll see that my daughter and I recently went on a thrifting day. We thought we were just gonna go to some yard sales and flea markets, which this is a great time of year, by the way. Lots of people out there having yard sales, wanting to get rid of things. But we hit our first estate sale. I had never been to an estate sale. I don't know why, but now I am a believer in estate sales. And that was just such a great experience. Not only, and maybe they all are like this, but it was so organized, and the items were in the room that they went in, like the kitchen items were in the kitchen. So it kind of gave you more of a sense of how things could be used in the space. But that is such a great way, because not only does it give you a wider option and variety of things that you wouldn't necessarily see in a store anymore, but normally those prices are a lot more affordable. And the people are willing for you to maybe like talk them down off that price, especially like your flea markets, your yard sales. I've gotten so many great deals at those, and it's just fun. It's fun to see what's out there. It's fun to reminisce. A lot of people are into like a vintage look, and that's where you can get all those vintage finds. So if you are into the blue floral right now, you can go back and find all those Currier and Ive plates that people have in these estate sales, because you know they've been around for a long time, and maybe family members don't appreciate it like you might. So you might actually get a good deal on some stuff, old pictures, baskets, just so many neat things that you can pick up at estate sales and thrifting. And plus it's fun. So grab a friend, grab a family member, grab you a cup of coffee or an iced coffee or iced tea, and go to some of these consignment shops, some of these thrift stores. You will be surprised at what you can find, and you'll enjoy that time with your loved ones as well. And that is more important. All right, the last tip I have for you, number 7, is to think outside the box and to use what you have. That is our slogan here on Simply Home and Heart: to live simply, to use what we have, and to enjoy the moments we've been given. So using what you have is always the most affordable way. And you can shop your home. Sometimes we use things for a season and then we put them to the side, or we use them in another room. We just kind of forget about them, and then they'll resurface, and we will end up pulling them out and using them later in a space. I have done that a lot, especially with like an old chair, or I've got that chair that converts to a ladder and then it's a chair. Y'all see me use that a lot lately, but that had been just sitting in storage for the longest time, not being used, but now it is. So, you know, think outside the box. I've also used like items like kitchen items as decor pieces, cutting boards as decor pieces, baskets, you know, so many things you can use, and you think, well, this isn't exactly a decorative item that I would buy from the store. A book, a coffee table book. You can put it on a display. I've got one I'm looking at right now that's on a cookbook holder, but it's just a beautiful book about flower arrangements that I thought would look so good sitting out here during the spring, and it's pretty. And so, you know, we use things like that. I'm just looking around trying to figure out everything that I have used in the past. A watering can, you know, you'd be surprised at what you already have in your possession, and you wouldn't have to go out and buy a lot of things. Put a candle with it and some greenery, and you've got yourself a nice little decorative piece. All right, you guys, well, that's just some of the tips that I have adapted into my own decorating style, and have learned over the years. Like I said, I would love to hear any of your decorating tips, and I love to learn. I'm still learning. I still love looking through books and magazines. Watching the videos, I watch them too with you, and going to the thrift stores to see what's out there. But it's just so much fun. If you love to decorate as much as I do, then you know what I'm saying. It's fun to learn and to get new ideas. So I hope this has inspired you today. We're getting ready to decorate for summer. Can y'all believe it? So there's more decorating to come, and I'll be sure to share my summer decor with you. All right, guys, well, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed that. So until next time, remember to live simply, use what you have, enjoy the moments you've been given, and I will see you all in the next one.